spoke with Lindy Lee. She's on the DNC Finance Committee. She's based here in Philadelphia. She's raised millions for Biden and for Harris. She says, look, this wasn't just a loss. This was a shellacking. The DNC is in serious chaos right now. Expect some departures. She said some staffers on the Harris campaign that she's spoken to haven't been paid. She called this whole thing a $1 billion boondoggle. And these celebrity endorsements that they paid for did nothing to move the needle. Take a listen. What is going on in leadership in the DNC right now? Is it in turmoil? Are people leaving?
It's absolutely in turmoil. People are stepping down.
Democratic National Committee struggling to regroup in the wake of overwhelming election losses. The party laying off long-term permanent staffers now with just 1 day's notice and no severance pay. A statement from the DNC staff union called the move a result of callous and short-sighted mismanagement by senior leadership, noting that the party would not acknowledge the extent of the layoffs or plans for future cuts. The scathing reaction from the staff union comes as Democrats search for a new leader.
Money problems within the DNC. Does that stand for Democrats with no cash? All joking aside, who would have thought that this would happen, right, guys? It turns out that they can't just print money to save their jobs. These are the facts of life that they have to accept. But it's a little bit shocking to hear that all of those celebrities didn't help Kamala Harris win the White House. Now, if these people truly believed in the Democratic Party, they should all give the money back, right? I mean, that would only be fair. Beyonce got like, what, $10 million? Oprah got around $2.5 million. And I don't even know how much they had to pay Taylor Swift for her endorsement. But if these high-profile Democrats believed in what they're fighting for, giving back what they were paid, it would be nothing. But I'm guessing that this isn't going to work out for these DNC employees. And where's the vice president in all this? The one person who all of these staffers supported for more than 100 days on the trail? Yeah. Well, she took a well-deserved vacation. So while her staffers were worried about not getting paid and the DNC in debt up to the millions, Kamala Harris and her husband Dougie spent some time away in a $7.1 million estate in Hawaii. And just to clarify, guys, this was the presidential candidate who said that she cared about the people, that she was going to make things easier for all of us. The same candidate that just kept talking about her growing up in the middle class. Yet she and Dougie picked out a retreat that cost $1,300 a night. They were there for 6 straight days. Now, I'm not really sure how they maintain their lawns there, but it's said to be an exclusive neighborhood. The DNC is flat broke, and instead of helping out staffers, she continues to spend more money. And who's going to explain this to the DNC and their donors? Now, it would be logical if the vice president talked about the money that they spent. But nope, she's got Tim Walz doing her dirty work. Now, the best part is that the election is done and that they're still asking for even more donor money. I know, it seems fake, but it's real. Check this out.
The Harris campaign remains in debt after the Harris-Walz ticket failed in November, and now Tim Walz is going to hit up wealthy Democratic donors to ask for some money to help repaying all of the vendors that they still owe and staff members that they stopped paying months before they were supposed to. We don't know yet, because we haven't seen excerpts, whether or not he plans to take accountability for what happened in November or if he plans to share his own roadmap for the next few years. And as Tim Walz addresses the party's elite, rank-and-file DNC staff are going grassroots with a GoFundMe after saying they were blindsided by being fired suddenly with no severance. They're about $16,000 towards a $25,000 goal. The organizer of this DNC union GoFundMe says, "We are heartbroken to see our colleagues who dedicated countless hours to electing Democrats up and down the ballot depart under these circumstances, and we are furious with DNC leadership for failing to provide severance to those affected."
Given the fact that the Democrats had an epic loss in the race for that building behind you, the DNC union people didn't see layoffs coming where they were going to get 1 day's notice?
Doesn't sound like it, no. And they are about $16,000 of a $25,000 goal. It doesn't seem like they're that people who donated a lot of money for months, even just $10, $15 at a time on those recurring payments that you get the text messages about constantly in an election season, it doesn't seem like there's much of an appetite for people to open their wallets again for that, or for the Harris campaign that now needs Tim Walz to go out and ask for help.
You know, how many people were fired? I know it was 2/3. Do we know the exact number? Because I feel like $25,000 to help people pay their rents and their bills is not that much if it's hundreds of people.
You got to split it.
They're saying that the $25,000 is temporary because they still think they're going to be able to get some kind of money out of the DNC or some kind of unemployment assistance. And so it's temporary. They had a protest at Union Station yesterday. It was pretty small.
Now, we truly dodged a bullet on this one, guys. Not the same way as President-elect Donald Trump did. That was pretty darn close. But we could see how they treat their staffers and their donors. Just imagine what they would do with our taxpayer money. And I want to tell you guys again that they just went through more than $1.4 billion in just 107 days. Just think about how much they would use up if you gave them another 1,460 days or 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Also, just remember that they kept talking about the working class, how Trump has done nothing for the working class, and how Kamala will present an opportunity economy. Y'all remember that, right? The only opportunity she gave her staffers was the opportunity to miss rent payments. But lo and behold, Kamala Harris already is looking forward to 2028. She wants to do it all over again, folks. Can you believe that? Political analysts have come out and said that this money issue should effectively remove Kamala Harris from politics forever.
And I'll tell you why. If you don't run the ads, the buyer doesn't get paid. A $900,000 to put her face on the Sphere in Las Vegas. In the Sphere, the ego, the crazy, the commissions. I was at the White House for a dinner Friday night, talking to a lot of people, and I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of whispering. There's a lot of names about who got paid this and who got paid that, and a lot of people got rich on the back of donors trying to stop Trump. And I think this disqualifies her forever. Forever. If you can't run a campaign, you can't run America. And that would be the argument just day one.
Could this be the end of Kamala Harris's career in politics, or will Democratic elites place her in a different position? As of now, it's either her or Gavin Newsom in 2028. Do any of you guys think that they would do a good job against J.D. Vance? All of these factors showed the entire country that she wasn't authentic. And this may have been the reason why she kept making the rules for her possible interview with Joe Rogan. But her campaign advisor, Stephanie Cutter, she had a completely different explanation as to why it didn't happen.
We wanted to do it. I hate to repeat this over and over, but it was a very short race with a limited number of days. And for a candidate to leave the battleground to go to Houston, which is a day off the playing field in the battleground, getting that timing right is really important. We had discussions with Joe Rogan's team. They were great. They wanted us to come on. We wanted to come on. We tried to get a date to make it work, and ultimately we just weren't able to find a date. We did go to Houston, and she gave a great speech at an amazing event.
The Beyonce event.
I'm going to call it Reproductive Freedom. And we were hoping to be able to fit it in around that, and ultimately weren't able to do it. As it turns out, that was the day that Trump was taping his Joe Rogan, which they had never confirmed to us. We kind of figured that out in the lead up to it. She was ready, willing to go on Joe Rogan. Would it have changed anything? It would have broken through, not because of the conversation with Joe Rogan, but because the fact that she was doing it. And that was really the benefit of it. Will she do it sometime in the future? Maybe. Who knows? But it didn't ultimately impact the outcome one way or the other.
Now, you gotta love how smug these people can be, right? Trump's Rogan podcast generated more than 50 million views. To say that her coming on wouldn't have changed the thing is downplaying that fact. And to argue that timing was an issue is kind of offensive. Trump was doing multiple rallies and interviews per day. He was going nonstop this entire race. But according to these people, it wasn't their fault that it didn't work with Joe Rogan, which kind of sums up the far left demographic for the Democratic Party. If something goes wrong, it's not our fault. That's the idea. And I think that the leaders of the Harris-Walz campaign embody this well into this podcast.
I would say, I mean, look, I am not media hater by any measure. And I think that, you know, we women don't get far in life talking about double standards. So that's not the point. But I do think a narrative 107 days, 2 weeks fucked up because of a hurricane, 2 weeks talking about how she didn't do interviews, which, she was doing plenty, but we were doing in our own way. We had to, be the nominee, had to find a running mate and do a rollout. I mean, there was all these things that you kind of want to factor in, but real people heard in some way that we were not going to have interviews, which was both not true and also so counter to any kind of standard that was put on Trump that I think that was a problem. And then on top of that, we would do an interview, and to Stephanie's point, the questions were small and processy and about
dumb.
They were not informing a voter who was trying to listen to learn more or to understand.
It's always everyone else that's the problem, not Kamala Harris gaslighting the American people or Tim Walz running and kicking on stage. It wasn't the lack of policy or how they would solve the issues that we have. It's us that's the problem. But she's still the VP though, right? She still has some time in place for the solutions that she promised on the trail, but she's not going to do that, and it might be better that she doesn't. Although what's being done might not be better. It's now come to our attention that the current administration may be fast-tracking World War III. Now, I covered this in a previous video, guys, where President Joe Biden gave Ukraine the permission to use long-range missiles against Russia.
Does it look bad for the vice president to go to Hawaii while DNC staffers are just wondering what they're going to do for work?
The vice president has taken time off to go spend time with her family. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think she deserves some time to be with her family and to have some downtime. She has worked very hard over the last 4 years, and her taking a couple of days to be with her family, good for her. Good for her. Thanks, everybody.
Kamala Harris is back from her Hawaiian post-election exile, trying to explain to donors how she burned through $1.5 billion and still got steamrolled by Donald Trump.
The light of America's promise will burn bright as long as we never give up and we keep fighting. Look, this mission that we have, it takes hard work. But as you've heard me say many times, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And in doing our work, we will remain committed and intentional about building community.
She's back, folks, and as always, she has her trusty teleprompter ready to go. And what's odd is that she doesn't seem to be taking her loss that badly, although she does seem to be at least slightly inebriated. At least that's what it looks and sounds like. This kind of reminds me of a photo of hers that went viral just days after her loss of President-elect Donald Trump. It shows a seemingly wholesome photo of the vice president together with her two great nieces as they play a game. Now, I said seemingly wholesome because right behind one of the kids is a glass of white wine. Now, it's been rumored that Kamala Harris loves to get her drink on, something that her critics have attacked her with throughout the course of her presidential campaign, with some saying that she had a booze meltdown after losing so badly to Trump. Now, with her returning to the spotlight, it's notable that many still think that she has a problem with drinking. But even beyond drinking, now if you made almost $1.5 billion and you still ended up in the hole by $20 million, then yes, she has a huge problem. And this newly released video is not helping her with the drinking allegations. But here's a snippet of it.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
For anybody who didn't notice, the vice president is reading off of a teleprompter. Her eyes just give it away. Now, there are those who believe that she's slurring her words a little bit as well. Also, she has the same repetitiveness that she had during her entire run. Now, what's surprising is that she acknowledges that she got so much money from her donors.
And you gave all that you could to support our campaign. Because of your efforts, get this, we raised an historic $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion from grassroots supporters alone, the most in presidential campaign history. Nearly 8 million donors contributed an average donation of about $56 to fuel our people-powered campaign. And understand that the work that we did included the work that so many of you here did, which is to talk to first-time voters. Many of you are first.
She doesn't even seem apologetic at all for spending so much of our money. That is, if you donated to her campaign. I, for one, did not. And you would think that after she hid for so long, she'd actually have prepared something from the heart. But she still seems like a robot with people behind the scenes giving her lines. She also looks a little bit tired for somebody who's taken such a long break and was on vacation in a $7.1 million home, or resort, or whatever the place was. It's really up to your imagination if you think that she's been drinking this whole time. Now, speaking of which, social media played a huge role in this year's election, and Democrats are already fear-mongering that free speech is in danger because of platforms like X. I covered this in a previous video, guys, that you need to check out, as mainstream liberal media is in panic mode. As always, I appreciate you guys for your time. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys on the next one.